So, have you ever been playing Fire Emblem and thought, you know what this could use? SpongeBob SquarePants. Because if so, I have a game for you. And I'm not even joking. So, let me explain myself. Back in January 23rd, 2008, the SpongeBob game, SpongeBob's Atlantis, SquarePantis, Square Off. God, that's such a long name. Obviously released a tie-in to the SpongeBob special Atlantis SquarePantis that exists. Was released. And oh boy. It was released, at least over here where I live, on Big Fish, which is basically Steam for a 4-year-old. So I'm going to read you the plot summary off of Encyclopedia SpongeBobia. I never thought I'd say that in a sentence in my life. So here's the plot. Plankton has taken over the lost city of Atlantis and marked the way there with a bunch of black flags, so every greedy goon in the ocean can follow and join his unstoppable army. Help SpongeBob and Patrick get to Atlantis by defeating Plankton's army. That's the entire plot of this game. I'm not joking. That's it. So you would probably assume, hey look, it's another cheap tie-in video game. You can see that a lot. Genuinely, you'd expect it to be something like a cheap platformer. These happen so often that you would expect it to be something cheap. Maybe a cheap, crappy kart racer. Akin Garfield kart. Like, the very few times there are good, that tie-in games that actually break out of that and people do enjoy. For example, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. Ironically, it's the same franchise. So, I'm going to talk about the gameplay in just a minute now. So, yeah. If you end up enjoying this video, it would mean a lot to me if you subscribed. I release videos like this pretty often. Well, less often, but for this type. But I release videos in this vein relatively often, and even a single and it's completely free and can be undone at any time. Thank you. So, let's talk about the gameplay. This is, of all things, a card collector turn-based tactical RPG. I'm not joking. So, you play as SpongeBob, you have movement stuff. It's interesting. It uses the same grid style as Fire Emblem. Also, sorry if the footage is bad. This is my own personal footage I recorded for this video. And I had really bad problems with OBS in this game. I'm not too sure why. OBS did just not want to cooperate with this game. Like, the game had no frame rate or any issues of the sort on my end when I was playing it, but OBS hated this game. I'm not sure why. It just hated it. And if you don't believe me, it's Fire Emblem based. Like, look at the turn. Like, look at one of those battle animations. They're, like, straight out of the GBA Fire Emblem games. And two, look at the grid-based movement. There aren't many series like this other than Fire Emblem and Advanced Wars. So, I'm going to discuss my thoughts on the game quickly in a minute, but, let's go over the cast of characters, as it actually has some decent some characters you wouldn't think they would include, for longtime fans of SpongeBob. So, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, Squidward, Gary, Karen, Plankton.
Nothing else, I presume, then?
Some obvious ones. Bubble Buddy makes an actual really important appearance.
Just say K thing.
The sea bear is a pretty common enemy in the kelp forest. Flats is an enemy.
Ah! Great timing.
Some of the guys from the Salty Spittoon are enemies. Doodle Bob appears as an enemy, apparently. I
Don't
didn't
you
encounter
agree with me?
myself,
That's
but
just
according to this
great
list.
timing.
Flying Dutchman, Dirty Bubble, Man Ray.
Watch it arrive like the second
One of
you
the guys
left
from
his
Rock
house.
Bottom. So generally, it actually is serviceable for those who do enjoy SpongeBob. There are some neat little callbacks. But now we get to talk about the problem. Which you're probably thinking, what is there that's such a big problem? As you'd expect, this is a watered down Fire Emblem. I mean, you're not expecting Fire Emblem level stories or gameplay from a 2008 SpongeBob game. Right? Let's be honest, it's a miracle that Battle for Bikini Bottom is as good as it is. I never thought a tying game would get a remake. But the thing is, this game, once again, feels... this is something I will come back to later in the video. But it feels like whoever came up with this idea genuinely thought it would be a really cool idea and genuinely cared about this project. For as much as you can care about a tie-in game. That was probably rushed. So, you know. But it feels like whoever made this game did genuinely think they had a really good idea and genuinely really want to try to make it as good as they could be. And I can admire someone for doing that. So let's go things in relatively simple order. I'm gonna start with art because art's, I created the SpongeBob asset for this video, so I'm pretty decent at art. And I actually do really enjoy a lot of the artwork that was made for this game. You've probably noticed all artwork is either generic, or copy and paste from the source. But, like, the sprites for everyone other than SpongeBob in the maps, I really like them. And the combat animations are, honestly, ironically, they would have taken... They have almost as much... Like, they tried. They're pretty cheap and, choppy. When OBS decides to work, they look good. But the thing is, the GBA Fire Emblem games, I'm just going to be comparing them to GBA Fire Emblem games, so Binding Blade, because I don't want to compare them to newer Fire Emblem games, because one that's released in 2008, I think Sacred Stones probably would have just released, or I think either Sacred Stones or Radiant Dawn were the newest games, so you still get my point. But also because, you're not going to expect 3 houses out of this, are ya? But the GBA Fire Emblem games really only have one animation per class. Like, Ra and Sophia, for example, use the exact same animation. But every single attack in this game has a different animation. None of them are the same. Some of them are similar and probably use similar assets, but I haven't encountered a single duplicate, really. And that's something I do appreciate. I feel like the game is a bit slow. And the game's difficulty scaling, if I can even call it that, is horrible at best. It doesn't make the game more difficult as you progress. Instead, they just throw more HP on enemies and throw more enemies. There isn't any challenge, it's still the exact same map layout of go until you get to the flag. It's just they make the maps slightly bigger. And make it so the enemies have, like, more health than SpongeBob gets by the end of the game. Gameplay. It's... But I don't want to talk about gameplay too much because it's pretty bad. But there is one thing I want to mention. They thought of an idea and they really liked it and wanted to keep going. I'm gonna say this again, but genuinely I think that's what they saw with this project. Say what you will, but I think they saw the idea and concept and wanted to do the best they could with what they had. Because it's a really cool idea, this turn-based... Like, it's Fire Emblem. But the thing I appreciate about it is the card system. You can attack and heal before you move. And there's no penalties on anything like that. You can basically adjust what skills you have on the fly, and they completely change how you play. So you can become someone who doesn't move very much, but is extremely but doesn't use much of your stamina and can then hit really hard. You can become someone who focuses almost exclusively on moving like one space and shielding. Like, I think they had an idea they really liked, really wanted to keep doing. But because of what they have and had to work with, you can't do that very well. But I think it's incredible they tried and they had an idea. And again, I'm gonna come back to this later. Do I think the game's worth it? No. Not really. Maybe if you had a kid who saw you playing Fire Emblem and was really intrigued by it, but obviously, like, they're a little kid and you want to introduce them to the kind of gameplay style, but like, if you had, like, a 7-year-old, I still don't think they'd be able to do very well at Fire Emblem, because no, Phoenix mode, you do not exist. This is a very good introduction to that gameplay loop, is what I'm trying to say. And this reminds me of all things, something similar with the Hotel Transylvania 3 game. I'll explain that quickly. It reminds me of this because developers with tie-in games seem to get the ideas of these projects that are similar to smaller franchises and want to use them. Hotel Transylvania 3, the game, plays like a Pikmin title. And this kind of gave me the same vibe. They introduced new concepts that the main series didn't have at the time. And kind of created their own idea. And used this existing formula and tried to do something with the limitations they had and the small budget. And that's something I really admire about it. And that's something I really appreciate when developers try. Even with the limited abilities they have, or limited time, or limited money. It's doesn't always mean it's a good game, but it means you tried. And Honestly, that matters almost as much. If there weren't people coming with new ideas for the industry, it wouldn't move. For example, if no one ever thought, hey, should we change anything about this system? Platformers would still be like Donkey Kong. Fire Emblem games would still be like Shadow Dragon. They'd probably look prettier, but that's about it. They wouldn't be moving forward. They wouldn't think, hey, what else can we do? How can we adapt this? We wouldn't have a 3D Mario. They wouldn't have thought, hey, should we try to... So you need to always be trying new things, and even if they fail, it's worth the effort and thought. If that's experimenting with your small team in this tie-in game, alright. I honestly think that's... It's neat that this is just a footnote in history. The time there was a SpongeBob tactical RPG. I can't believe I got to say that sentence. I played this game first when I was 4 years old. It came out when I was probably 1 or 2. I think 1 because it was 2008. I'm not sure. I'm not good with time. But I think it's awesome that these developers tried, and honestly, I'm impressed. It's not a good game, it's not well balanced, but they tried, and I'm impressed by the fact they were even able to do what they did. With the almost certainly heavy limitations that were held against them. The probably year max deadline they had. They did a good job with what they had. And I can appreciate that. Is it a good game by any means? No. Is it a waste of your time? Not really. I kind of just played it for the 3 hours it took me to complete the game and just zoned out, listened to some Reddit reading content, which I really enjoy. Honestly, this makes me wonder what other games I never completed when I was a child I should go back on, that I have fond memories for. And hopefully you guys will do something similar. If you can still play them, it's honestly worth checking out. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video.